When it comes to workers' compensation for convenience stores and grocery stores, there are two main factors that are going to impact your premiums that you pay. And there's like a third one as well that we'll talk about, but there's two that you want to think about right now. The first is that you are properly aligned, your business, with an insurance carrier that wants to write convenience and grocery stores. So most business owners make the mistake of believing that the state sets workers' comp rates and that's it. Now, there are a few states in the country where that's the case, but in most states, rates vary by carrier. So the state sets initial base rate, and then every carrier sets their own rate slightly above that base rate, with some being slightly more and some being slightly less. And what you want to find is the right carrier to match your business so that you're paying the least per $100 of payroll. Okay, that's step number one. Step number two for a convenience store is that everyone who must be covered by workers' comp is covered by workers' comp. Let me give you a quick story about what I mean. I had an insured a few years ago. He ran a convenience store and he actually lived above that convenience store. So it was a 3-story building, and he and his family lived on the second and third floor, and they had a kind of an urban convenience store on the first floor, which is great. And what he told me at the time is that none of his family members ever came down and worked the counter at the convenience store, which I double checked with him that this was the case. But in an instance, he was out, his wife came down and stood behind the counter at the convenience store, and in that moment, in walked an inspector from New York State who asked who the individual was, took her name, and then applied that against their workers' compensation policy, in which she was not covered, her payroll wasn't there. And what happened was, at audit time, my client received a bill for what it would cost for his wife to be a full-time employee of that business for the year, which thankfully in this case, the amount of premium, because the rate for someone who stands behind a counter at a convenience store isn't particularly high. It wasn't a number that broke the bank, but it certainly was not a check that he had wanted to write. And the reason was he was not covering his wife, or hadn't specifically excluded his wife as someone on the policy. And in either one of those instances, he would have not gotten that large audit bill if he had properly insured. Now, these types of corner cutting, they don't work in the end. And this is where we have to be careful. And I run into this a lot with convenience store owners, because oftentimes they're family-owned businesses. So be very careful. If a child or a nephew or a cousin comes in and works the counter and they're not covered under your workers' compensation policy, or you haven't properly allocated what you pay them to your workers' compensation policy, and you get caught by the state, and I'm telling you, you're gonna get caught by the state eventually. You may get away with it this year, maybe even next year, but I promise you, if you continue, you're going to get caught. And when you do, you're going to have a large bill. So as long as we're properly allocating our payroll, making sure everyone's covered, and we're with the right carrier, then you're in good shape. The third and final thing is just running a safe operation, making sure you have anti-slip guards anywhere where there could be water, anywhere where there's doors, buy all the refrigeration units or freezer units if you have them, making sure that there's proper safety procedures in place, especially if you have a gas station attached to your convenience store. These are all ways that you can make sure that you don't have any injuries, because injuries push your rates up as well. So if this is the kind of relationship that you'd like to have with your insurance agent, someone that thinks this deeply about your insurance, who's willing to communicate it with you, we would love to work with you. We are workers' compensation specialists here at Rogue Risk. Give us a call, 518-960-6600. You can visit us online at roguerisk.com. You can email us, gorogue@roguerisk.com, or I'm sure there's a link or a form somewhere around this video that you can contact us with. Either way, look forward to working with you.